In today's economic environment, Americans seem to be in a constant state of restlessness and frustration. We have never fully recovered from the financial pain brought on by the health crisis back in 2020, and even though we're only 4 months into 2022, we're already on the edge of a recession again. The economy is slumping at a very fast speed, while the price of virtually everything continues to explode. From food to gasoline, electronics to furniture, energy to housing, everything is significantly more expensive. And U.S. consumers are getting fed up with the effects of soaring inflation. Our supply chains are still a complete and total mess. Shortages are causing severe market distortions, and consumer demand continues to outstrip the system's capacity of producing more supplies. With all that in mind, it's understandable why every new poll, survey, and measure of consumer sentiment shows that our population is becoming incredibly pessimistic about the future of our nation. Millions of hardworking Americans that have given everything they've got to build a comfortable lifestyle for themselves and their families are now seeing their standard of living declining more and more with each passing month, as the cost of living rises but wages remain stagnant. Workers that have done everything right their entire lives are now realizing they may never be able to purchase a home, and that they'll probably never get the chance to properly retire. Labor conditions are so bad right now, nearly 4 million burnt-out workers have simply quit their jobs over the past 12 months, citing low pay, no opportunities for advancement, and a growing feeling of disrespect. The U.S. population is extremely anxious about their finances this year. Many people are trying to figure out how in the world they'll be able to pay their mortgage, afford all of their monthly bills, and still put 3 meals on their tables for each member of their families every day. Meanwhile, the number of good jobs continues to go down. More than half of all job openings right now offer low wages, and considering that a growing percentage of the jobs that are being created these days are very low-paying jobs, it's going to be a lot harder to find a decent job that can support the basic necessities of the average family. We've outsourced most of our production to foreign markets, and millions of middle-class jobs have vanished in that process. Now the average household can no longer afford decent health insurance, a new car, or unexpected expenses, as saving rates have sunk to the lowest level in decades. Sadly, it appears that the American people are still waiting for hope and change to show up, but all they're going to get instead are more waves of despair and frustration. As our tragic economic decline continues to accelerate, people are starting to panic. Many of us can already feel that something has gone terribly wrong in our country. We have never faced such a prolonged economic downturn in modern U.S. history, and a lot of people are starting to freak out about the collapse of our economy. As Gerald Celente once said, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. Today, we have compiled 15 signs for you that the Americans have begun freaking out about the state of our economy. Before checking out our list, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our future videos. Number 1. According to the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, Americans are getting increasingly pessimistic about the economy. In March 2021, the index was standing at 84.9, marking a strong consumer sentiment as another round of government stimulus had just kicked in. Today, that number has dropped by 30%, currently standing at 59.4, the lowest figure in 10 years, showing an acute deterioration in sentiment. 2. The report also shows that 62.8% of Americans are worried about how rising inflation is collapsing their living standards, and about 32% of them believe that 2022 is going to be far worse than 2021. 3. Americans aren't happy about the current economic conditions and the threat of more disruptions in their lives from the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is adding to the anxiety. That's why 67.2% of Americans say that their financial health will get worse in the year ahead. This is the highest figure since the 1940s. 4. Right now, 55% of Americans call rising prices the biggest problem facing the U.S. Data from a new Kaiser Family Foundation poll shows. 5. In their personal finances, 71% of Americans expressed rising worries about being able to afford gasoline and other transportation costs, while 58% cited concerns about unexpected medical bills. 50% are worried about the cost of monthly utility bills, and 47% about rising food prices. 6. Roughly half of Americans, or about 51%, say they've put off or gone without some form of medical service in the past year because of its costs. 7. According to a new CBS polling, 6 in 10 Americans say the economy is in a very bad shape. 8. The American Psychological Association found that 87% of U.S. consumers said that food inflation and supply chain issues related to the Ukraine crisis are significant sources of stress. This is the highest number of people who have ever reported feeling stressed about any issue in the 15 years this survey has been conducted. 9. The survey also found that for the second year in a row, people are trying to cope with all the stress in unhealthy ways. Nearly a quarter of the respondents said they're drinking more alcohol as a coping mechanism. 10. At least 43% of consumers say they will have to delay important purchases if prices keep going up, NPD Group data revealed. 11. Market research company Data Essential found in a recent survey 96% of Americans are struggling with the effects of soaring inflation, while 48% say they've already started cutting back on spending. 12. 51% of Americans believe that the U.S. economy is in a recession or a depression, the gloomiest outlook in 6 years, according to a poll conducted by USA Today. 13. Really bizarre thefts are being reported all over the United States right now. Over the past month, a wave of gasoline theft has led to hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses, as thousands of thieves around the nation have started drilling holes in people's gas tanks and siphoning it out amid skyrocketing gas prices. Local news also reported cases of people stealing massive copper pipes, grocery carts, and even an entire 58-foot bridge. 14. Inequality is out of control in the United States. Today, consumer spending accounts for almost 70% of the annual economic output. However, the top 5% of all income earners in the country account for as much consumer spending as the bottom 80% of all income earners. 15. A poll conducted by Deseret News found that 72% of Americans believe that the nation is on the wrong track. That's the highest figure ever recorded. Frustration and dissatisfaction with the major institutions in our society seem to grow by the day. Government approval rates continue to plunge as it becomes harder to afford to live in this country. Our people are deeply divided about what the solutions to our problems are, but something almost everyone can agree on is that our problems are getting worse. Watching all of the madness that's going on in our markets, supply chains, hospitals, and streets is more than enough to drive someone absolutely crazy. The United States used to be a strong and resilient nation, but now the country is drowning in an ocean of debt while thousands of stores are closing. Shortages are leaving supermarket shelves increasingly emptier. Financial markets are recording the biggest asset bubbles in history. Working conditions continue to decay. Poverty is exploding, and hundreds of thousands of people may lose their homes this year, while corporate greed and government corruption become a national disease. People are angry to see that the vast majority of our so-called leaders don't seem to know what they're doing and how the consequences of their decisions will impact our everyday lives. No wonder why the population is losing faith in the future of the nation. It's hard to keep believing when you see rampant corruption and decay everywhere you look. All we ever wanted was to be able to take care of our families and live comfortably and peacefully in our own homes. But that possibility has been removed from our hands, and we've been left to fight for the crumbs while the rich become even richer at the expense of our labor. The new normal is going to be a lot different from what the old normal was. We have to start waking up to the fact that the United States is a declining power. The long-term trends that have driven us to where we are now have taken decades to develop, which basically means there is no quick fix that some politician can magically bring in to reverse the damages that have been done. Now we are starting to pay the price for decades of reckless decisions. As the consequences of those decisions become more apparent, the American people are just going to get angrier and angrier. Thank you for your attention. Please share this video and subscribe to our channel.